So we'll be looking at setting up messaging and notifications. So these are really helpful for, both the managers and the employees. And Deputy has a whole host of different kind of things you can look at. So we'll go through a few of those. We'll look at training tags. Now, a lot of you might be using training tags already, but there's a couple more things within that. So uploading documents and adding expiry and having notifications when a training tag expires. So we'll go into more detail on those. Scheduling shortcuts. So some really handy tips on the scheduling page that I think are really time saving, to be honest. And yeah, that's where you spend most of your time scheduling, right? So they'll be good. Then customizable business settings. Business settings sounds a little bit boring. But yeah, I promise you there's some tips and tricks in there that hopefully you'll enjoy. So let's jump straight into the platform. So the first thing to note here is that I am using Google Chrome as my browser. So Deputy is optimized for Chrome. It does work on a couple of others, but we always recommend Chrome. And you guys as well will probably have been using this already, but just to mention before we jump into the real tips and tricks is this Deputy chat box in the bottom right-hand corner. So here is where you can chat to our support team, but you can also search for help articles. So this is really helpful if you're in the product, you're learning how to do something, you can search here and have your article open at the same time while you do that. If you don't have the chat option here, to find it, just toggle down beside help and then switch on show help chat, and then that will appear for you there. So let's jump into the newsfeed. And you'll see here on the right-hand side, you have a list of your different teams. So you can toggle by location, and it will show you who's on shift today, who's scheduled. It will also show who is late and who is on a break. So the handy thing about this is that you can click this chat icon just to the right of each group, and that will allow you to message those specific groups. So some people find this really helpful if you wanted to message any team members that are late, say, or you can perhaps do a roll call, for fire training. So what we'll do is we'll just click on the chat icon, type in the box. So please confirm you are all okay after that terrifying fire drill. And you can confirm that you want your team members to notify you that they've read this message and post, and it will appear in the newsfeed, but only for those specific team members. So again, you could do it just for one person if they're late, if they're on shift and you needed to drop them a message, anything like that. Next, we will move to tasks. So tasks, I think tasks are super helpful, but you might not be using them maybe in this specific way that I'm about to show you guys. So if you click on a add task group here, and add to a task group again. So you might be using tasks at the moment for certain things like operational procedures, opening, closing duties, cleaning, anything like that. But what you can also do is put this to use when you want your team members to, say, for example, collect a new uniform, or in this case, they might welcome a new colleague. So you can type into any of these job lists here. So we'll say, please welcome Ben to the team. You can choose which specific area. So let's say Ben works in the bar. We want all of his bar colleagues to welcome him on his first day. So his first day is Monday, and his first shift starts at 10 a.m. So this is pretty straightforward. What you mightn't have noticed is the little drop down beside this checkbox. This will allow you to add more specific task notes, but you can also toggle that this task should be completed multiple times. So this will allow everyone in the bar area to complete this task. So toggle that on and save that down. And then the bar team will see this task in their app for Monday at 10 a.m. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is under locations. So location is really the cornerstone of Deputy. This is how you set up your places of work. When you have a new place of work, a handy tip is to just duplicate an existing location. So to do this, you would just click the drop-down arrow beside your existing location, and you would click duplicate. In here, you have the option to copy all of your employees. So you can say if you had, employees that worked across both sites, both locations, they would then automatically have this location added to their profile. You can also copy your settings, so it makes it super quick. You don't need to replicate everything twice manually. And you can copy your payroll, integration, and your shift templates. So shift templates, super handy, especially if you have, maybe busier periods or on Christmas or anything seasonal that you don't need to recreate those again. And you just click duplicate once you've added your name and the address. So super straightforward. Then the other thing that I think is quite helpful on the locations is within the settings. So we'll click edit settings, and then we'll jump to notifications and integrations. So this is really, really helpful. There's a whole host of different notifications in here. You can see that I have some enabled at the moment, and there are a few that are enabled by default. So one of the ones that are enabled automatically is late to clock in and clock on and late to clock off. So what this is that your team members or your location manager or both will get a notification when an employee hasn't clocked on or hasn't clocked off. So these are automatically on. So if you find that you're getting too many notifications and you absolutely don't want them anymore, you can easily just switch this to the employee, or you can turn it off, disable it here. You can also turn it on and off for all locations. So great, again, if you have multiple locations and you want to set up the same notifications across all venues, easy to just do this in the one location settings. So a couple of other ones that I think are great would be the birthday notification. So it's just kind of a fun one for the team. So you can show that someone has a birthday today, and it will automatically post to the newsfeed and let everyone know. So if we choose to activate here, so you can notify the manager. So say if you had a special, birthday bonus or anything like that, and be a great employer if you did, then you can announce on the newsfeed. So just kind of a fun one for the team. And again, you can toggle it on and off for all locations. Another one is mandatory breaks. So what you can do as well, I've been scrolling, but you can just search here. There's quite a few of them. So mandatory breaks, they'll bring it up. And we'll click activate. So this will notify your team members or your managers, whichever you prefer, or both, that they need to take a break at a specific time. So if you are operating within the working time directive and you need your team to take a break at 4.5 hours, or whatever specific option that you like, you can set that up here. Another one would be expiring training. So just in a second, we're going to have a look at training tags. But while we're in the notifications, let me show you expiring training. So this is really, really helpful if you have, for example, first aid or anything that needs to be reset every 12 months periodically. You can set it up in here so that the manager is notified, or the employee again, when their training record is about to expire. And when I say training record, you can really have anything in there. So it could be a passport or a visa or anything like that. It doesn't need to be training specific. You can choose the training, so whatever you have set up. And you can choose the notification expiry timeframe. So anything from 7 days to 90 days. So depending on, if it's a visa, you might want 90 days, you might need a bit more time. If it's something like first aid, maybe 2 weeks would do. So whatever works for you. So that is it. There's actually loads and loads of ones in there, so I won't go through them all. But yeah, do feel free to have a look and see if there's anything that looks like it might be helpful for you. So let's just quickly recap what we've covered so far, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So we've looked at how to use chat support and get in touch with our excellent support team. They're super quick to respond. Actually, I think at the moment, the average first response time is under a minute. So yeah, feel free to ask them if you have any questions. You can also search our knowledge base for any articles, which is really helpful to have open, as I said, while you're doing something in the platform. In terms of messaging, you can message team who are on shift, who are late, who are scheduled for later that day, and who are on a break. So really helpful to just bulk those people together and know who is where at what time. You can also create task groups, which allows you to send a task to multiple employees. So really, really helpful for bigger teams, or like we said, collect your uniforms, anything repetitive that multiple team members need to do. You can duplicate your locations. And again, this is really time saving when it comes to shift templates and settings in particular. And you can go through all of those notifications that we just looked at. So again, late to clock on and off, or on by default. Maybe you'd want to toggle them off if you're not a fan of the notifications. So what we'll do is we'll just jump to Gary and see if anyone has any questions at the moment.
We've just, excuse me, this is pretty typical of the webinars, is that all the questions tend to come in like the last 2 minutes and we're scrambling to answer them all. But we've had just the one so far, which I did answer in the chat, but just in case anybody hasn't seen it, is regarding notifications. How do employees see them? It's pretty straightforward. Like any other app these days, if they use the Deputy Smartphone app, they will receive push notification for any newsfeed messages. If they don't use it, or they're not logged into it, they will get an email. And we've literally, as I speak here, we have a new question. Phil's asking, hi, I'm a complete newbie to Deputy. What's the best way to find out how I can start using Deputy for all things training? I'm not exactly what you mean there, Phil. Do you mean, put it in the chat, but do you mean, how do you get new training for Deputy? Do you want to use Deputy and learn how to use it? Or I'm not exactly sure what you mean there. You can have to elaborate in the chat, please. I know we say don't ask questions in the chat, but I'm going to make a special exception for you. Toby's asking, this is a good question. Is there a way to add a tag to a day, e.g. we are running a promotion 50% off this day? There's actually 2 options I'll give you for that, Toby, and it's really down to your personal preference. But Louise, if you wouldn't mind jumping into the platform and go to the schedule page, I'll just answer this one quickly. So the 2 options would be, the first one, if you actually click on a day, like the actual day and date, it'll get a little drop down, and you can see there's a text box there where you can type in something that's happening that day. Now, this is fine for the schedulers, because once you type something in there, there'll be a little icon above the day that you'll need to hover over. So you should now see there's a little eye, and when you hover over it, you can see it. Now, I completely appreciate that's not exactly that visible, and you'd kind of have to know to look for it, right? So the other option, which I think is probably a bit better, is to create like a bulk shift notes for everyone who's working on that day. And I've just thought of a third option, actually, but I would say you create it in one person shift for that day, and then you can bulk apply it to everybody else. And Louise is actually going to show you about bulk application of things in a shift shortly anyway, so I'll leave it to her to show you, but that's how you would do it. And that way everybody who's working that day will have in their shift notes that you have a promotion, for example, that day. The third way is to use the newsfeed, the way that Louise showed you at the beginning, where you can see everybody who's scheduled that day on the right-hand side there, and you could do a group message to just the people working, in a particular location. that you are running that promotion. So there's three options there. Probably the latter two are the better ones. We've got, it's so funny now, we've got a boatload of questions have come in now. So just bear with us, guys, whilst we take a little look through. Nate is asking, similar to the training notification, is there a way to add a DBS number? I'm not sure about what that is, but to an employee, and is there a feature that notifies when an employee's DBS is expiring? Yes, both of those things is coming up shortly. Louise will take you through how to add a tag and how to add an expiry date to it. And she showed you the notification earlier on. If you missed it, you'll get the recording, so don't worry. She showed you what the notification setup is like for people to get those. So stay with us, Nate. That's coming up shortly. I'll tell you what, Louise, if you want to crack on, I shall continue doing. I'll answer these questions in the chat. So yeah.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Gary. So we're back in the platform, and we're going to jump into the People tab. So the first thing here is you can see on my display that I've got pay rates and training tags on show. This is something that you wouldn't have on by default. So if you wanted to show that, you would just click display, and you can choose from a whole host of things here. So I think when you first join, it might look a little more bare. You might have something like this. But yeah, you can choose anything you would like to have shown there. So really helpful to get a quick overview of, people's specific details. Another thing is the filter option. So in here, you can obviously filter by location, access, employee level, etc. The thing that you might not have noticed off the bat is invitation. So here you can choose to see who has accepted their invite to deputy, who is still waiting a reply, who has declined. I don't know who would ever decline an invitation to deputy. But yeah, really, really helpful. Just if you need to prompt people, you're not sure if they've logged in yet or if they've seen their schedule. So great way to filter and display it there. The last thing before we jump into training tags, the last thing here is the bulk actions tool. So you can select everybody down the left-hand side by clicking this top checkbox, or you can choose individually. And then click bulk actions. And this will allow you to add locations, dress profiles, a whole host of things to multiple team members at once. So really handy if, maybe you're updating pay rates, say if minimum wage has changed or leave, your leave entitlements have changed, anything like that. It's really helpful. The one thing to mention though is you can see that I just have a very small team of employees here. At my cartoon restaurant, and I just have one page. So if you had multiple pages, and I think the limit is 50 per page. So if you have more than 50 employees, you'll have multiple pages. When you select bulk actions, it only applies to the page that you are on. So if you have more than 50 employees, you might need to do this a couple of times. So just one thing to keep in mind. Now we are going to jump into Barney's profile, and we are going to go to employment. And this is where you see the training tags. So Nate, this is kind of the DBS tag that you would be looking to add. So if we click edit when we're in employment, and we have a look here at the training. So if we add a new training, you can see that we already have, a certain number of training tags in place, but to create a new training tag, you would just type, I think it was DBS, he said, and then just press enter, and that will add it as a training type. So what you would like to do then is to add a specific DBS number. So you could do that in the comments section here. And what you can do is set up your expiry. So we can choose a date in the future. You can add an attachment. So say if there was a certificate for that, you could upload it here. And then what you would need to do is just click save. And now once you have the expiry notification set up, as we went through already, then you could be notified as the manager, or you could be notified as the employer, both. So just save that down. And you can see that those details will be in the employment. So you can see all of the training tags here. And if you wanted to, again, just see more specifics on, this is a quick overview. If you click edit, you'll be able to break that down. Cool. And again, worth mentioning that you can bulk apply a training tag as well. So if you say add training, and if we wanted to add DBS training to everyone, we could do that here. Everyone would then automatically have it applied, but you would then be able to go into everyone's profile and edit the dates and upload the documents. So it gives you a bit of flexibility there to kind of bulk upload as well. Then we'll move on to the schedule tab. So I'm on the schedule tab at the moment, view by employee by week. So this is kind of more your like traditional Excel view. So generally we use view by area quite a lot as well. So that would look more like this. But initially, we're just going to look at view by employee for the week, because what I want to show you guys is if you have a team member who has maybe called in sick and they're scheduled on for the rest of the week, a really quick way to offer those shifts out to somebody else is to click on the three little dots beside the team member's name and choose turn all shifts to open. So what this will do will make all of this employee's shifts available for any other team members to claim or take. So you would remove all of the shifts and then turn them to open. So then they will just appear. So this is actually on this week. So Velma actually doesn't have any more, which is convenient. But yeah, that is how you would do that. And then the next thing is we'll jump back to view by area. But what we'll do is we'll view by day. So this is just one day. So we'll jump to a day in the future. So this is for tomorrow. So tomorrow's shifts. So one thing to note here is you can see that I have all of my specific areas open. So you can hide these as well. And this will be relevant because we're going to apply some bulk actions to all of these shifts, but the bulk actions will only apply to areas that are open. So if I decide to hide off some areas, bulk actions are not going to apply to them. So let's say, for example, that we've had a flood and we know that we can't open in the morning at the scheduled time. So we're going to have to open later in the afternoon. And what we want to do is we want to get all of our team members in later in the afternoon. So we can choose, I'm just going to change this to one of our locations. So we've only had a flood at one, thank goodness, and both of them haven't gone down in the same day. But we still want to get our cleaners in earlier because we're going to need their help to get ready. So let's hide this area. They're due in at 8 a.m. and that's perfect. Then up here, we'll click on options and bulk update. So here we can bulk update the start time. You can choose other things as well. So meal breaks and this comment. So this is what Gary mentioned earlier. So I'll jump back to that in just a second. But for now, we'll update the start time and we'll change it to 1:55 p.m., very specific start time, and we'll apply that update. So you can now see that all of these shifts have changed their start time. But if we unhide the cleaner area, you can see that these team members are still scheduled for 8 a.m. And you would then just publish that to notify your team. So do that as normal. You can publish the updates only, and you can choose which areas to apply it to. So you can leave cleaners in here. They won't get a notification because there weren't any updates to their shifts. And you can again choose exactly how you want to notify the team. So the thing that Gary mentioned was adding a comment to a shift and then bulk updating so that all shifts have that same comment. So say if on this specific day you have, you're fully booked and you need everyone to be super on form, what you can do is just edit your shift. So we will jump back into view by week, just so we can have an overview of the different kind of dates. So here, let's say the date is tomorrow. We'll edit the shift, and here we can add a note. So just say fully booked, etc. Whatever you want. This is not the most exciting shift note, but employees will see this in their app on the shift. So we'll save this down. Then we'll go back to our bulk update tool in the top right-hand side, choose comment, and you can see here that we've got fully booked. So the comments that you'll see here, they come from comments that are on the shift. So if you wanted a bulk update one, you would have to first add it to a shift and then go to bulk update. So we'll apply that update. And you can see that this is across. Now I've done it here for the week, but you can choose days or months, whatever works for you guys. And the last thing that is probably quite helpful on the schedule tab, we'll just jump forward to a future week. And what you can do, so here where we had the shift or the note for scheduling, which appears up here, you can also block time off requests. So what you would do is you just click the little drop down beside the date and click block time off. And now that will block any future requests, but if you have existing requests from your team, they will still be in place. So if you wanted to remove them, you would have to decline them. But really helpful if, maybe you have several team members or maybe 2 managers off at the same time and you can't allow any more, you can just block the time off and the existing ones will be unaffected. So we will then jump into business settings, which I know sounds not super exciting, but let's go for it. So click on your name over in the right-hand corner and then click business settings. So within here, the first thing that we will look at is under general. So down here, you've got allow SMS notifications. So this means that, whenever you choose to notify within the platform, so maybe on the schedule tab, you have send SMS as an option. Those SMS are chargeable. So I think that the rate is about maybe 5p a message, but you might think, oh no, my invoices, are starting to creep up. We're sending, hundreds of staff. We're sending way too many SMS notifications. So you can turn this off here. And I think that this should be on by default initially. So one thing to note is that if you disable this here, we'll apply the changes. And we're back on the schedule. So we'll just go to the current week. And if you are to choose to publish the shifts and you say publish updates only, go through the steps, you will still see that you have SMS here, but this doesn't actually allow an SMS to be sent. So even though the management team, might still be choosing this, you can decide if actually no, the business settings should override and I don't want to send SMS anymore. So that is under business settings, general, and just in here. The next business setting that we will look at is under the people tab. So custom stress profiles. So stress profiles are essentially like contracted hours. So you might have, maybe a team member who is under 18 and has like specific working time directive, and they can't work maybe more than 8 hours a day, or maybe more than 30 hours a week, anything like that. So you can set up this stress profile for them. So you click into manage stress profiles, and you can see that there are some on by default when you join, but you can create as many as you want. So they can be completely unique to each employee, or you might have some that fit different areas within the business. So we will click new stress profile. And in here, you'll be able to, add the name, maximum hours on any shift, or the maximum hours in a week. So really, really helpful, if you need also rest breaks overnight. So say a break of maybe 12 hours between a shift, anything like that. So you can create your stress profile here. You would just save it down. And then what you could do is if you return to the People tab, you would then be able to maybe apply this. So you could select, everyone who is, say, maybe under 18 for this specific one, whatever the example is, and choose bulk actions, and then you can set their stress profile. So I didn't save one down there, but this would then appear here. So you can bulk apply that to any employees that it is relevant to. And we will jump back into business settings. And then the last one I'll show you, which is actually my favorite one, is under timesheets. So some people might be familiar with this because through COVID, this has been particularly relevant. So if we click here on shift questions, so what shift questions does is it allows us to ask our employees, a question, or gives them a poll, a series of answers they can choose from, or it can just be a plain text box. But it allows us to ask a specific question requiring an answer before an employee starts a shift or when they end a shift. Also, I think you can do it for breaks. So what you could do is set it up so that before someone clocks in, they need to confirm whether or not they've had COVID symptoms. And that is one that, has been particularly relevant over the last couple of months. But you can also create one that's a bit more fun. So if you go into a new custom field, so just here, you'll see all of the options. So you'll be able to choose timesheet here. It's the only option. You can make sure that this is active. The field name will pop up on. So when we jump back into the slides, I'll show you what this looks like for an employee in the app. So you'll be able to type in your question. So, do you have any COVID symptoms? And this can also, like I said, be a bit more fun. So you could ask people, are you coming out for drinks tonight? Are you joining us for the staff party? Do you have any recommendations for, our next team social? Anything at all that you want. So again, you can put more details. So say here you might put, fever. I've forgotten the symptoms. How is that possible? Fever, cough, et cetera, et cetera. And then the type of field. So this is the response that you would like. So if you want to give people just a free text box where they can write, yeah, I feel fine, or nope, I'm on my way home, whatever you want. You can also choose check boxes or a list, anything that works in relation to your question. Validation. So this means that the team member has to answer the question before they're allowed to clock on or off. So definitely helpful when you need to kind of document things like COVID checks. And the value list. So say, for example, if this is super simple and it's a yes, no, you would just type that with a comma in between. We've chosen a list here, so that will apply in that way. And then the timing. So this allows you to choose that it happens when someone clocks in or out. So, whatever works. And then it can display on a specific, I think I said earlier that it can display on a break. So it won't be asked when someone clocks on for a break, I think, but you can choose to display it on a specific timesheet if it doesn't have a break. Or anything. So if it applies, you need specific break questions, you can add those in. You can choose which areas, and then you would just save that down. So what you can do then is I'll just return here and we'll take a look at the reports. So within the reports, you've got your custom report builder, and there is a pre-populated report in there, which is the shift questions report. So this allows you to view who has, answered your shift questions. So say in this example, you can see that we have one team member on shift today who's clocked in, and they have answered the COVID check. So no, I don't have COVID symptoms. So yeah, really good way to have an overview. Obviously this was a yes, no, but if your answers were just the text box, you definitely see like all of the details in here as well. And that is it for the tips and tricks. So I think we might just quickly recap, and then we will have some more time for Q&A. So in the people tab, we looked at things to just simplify and speed up. So filtering, displaying certain things, specific attributes, and also bulk actions. Within training tags, we looked at setting up specific expiry dates and adding documentation. So say like in Nate's case, DBS checks. On the schedule tab, we looked at blocking time off, so preventing holidays from being booked. We looked at turning all shifts to open, so maybe if a team member has called in sick for the week ahead. And we also looked at bulk updating shifts, so changing the start time and adding comments to all the shifts. And then in the business settings, we looked at disabling and enabling SMS charges, custom stress profiles, and also shift questions. So on the right-hand side, you can see an example of how a shift question will appear when an employee goes to clock in on the app. So this is on iOS, so this is on an iPhone, and you can see that they go to clock in, and before they can submit, you can see that there's a star next to the COVID check. When you click into this, it will give them the options for yes or no, or whatever you might have set up. And then they will be able to submit their clock in so that you can then track that in the report as we showed. So let's jump back to Gary and see what he's got for us.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah, we only have one outstanding question because I pressed the wrong button instead of typing my reply. From Jennifer, she was asking, can a supervisor have access to that notes section at the top of the day, or is it just admin? It is anyone who has scheduling privileges. So yes, supervisor access level and above. So it's a nice, easy one.
Nice.
Sebastian's asking, oh, sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, surely we have some more, do we?
Well, yes. Now we've got 3.
Excellent.
How can I find out more about the auto-scheduling tool? Will there be a separate seminar? Same with creating more specific reports. Yeah, I mean, both reporting and auto-scheduling are huge parts of the platform that absolutely require their own, in-depth session. We have done extensive webinars on both of these topics actually in the past. So what I would encourage you to do, Sebastian, is go to deputy.com/training, which I'll just put in chat now, 1 second, because that is where we host all of our previous content, including previously recorded webinars. So all you need to do is go to that link I've just put in the chat box there, and you should be able to find it. Let's have a look. Next question. Hannah's asking, how do all employees see other employees' annual leave scheduled? There's a couple. I think there's a couple of options there. You can. I would say for this one, you could go to the report that is the time off planner that's on the reports page. You can adjust the parameters so that you can have, which employees based on which leave types or based at which location and whatever date range. So, for example, let's see it for a month. You can actually then export that and then perhaps share it in the newsfeed. That would be my suggestion for that one. Oh, just got some great feedback from Nate. It's not a question. He's just saying, yeah.
Thank you, Nate. No problem at all. Glad to hear it helps.
Hannah says, yeah, most employees don't have reports viewable. Yeah, so it does involve like a bit of a manual show. You know, you'll need to export it and share it manually as a PDF or something in the newsfeed. That would be my recommendation, Hannah.
Just
Okay,
where you'd be able
that's everything.
To add that report, just if you had it as a PDF or anything.
Oh yeah, actually that's good, because someone else asked a question about what can I attach pictures into the newsfeed, and you can actually see all the different document types just beneath the what's happening box. That there'll be support there.
Perfect. Okay. So I think, does that bring us to the end of our questions?
That's it. They're all answered.
Excellent. So I'm sure everyone has just learned so much that they don't need to know anymore. So thank you all so much for joining us today. So I hope that you have, learned something new and this was helpful. As Gary mentioned, we do have a training portal, which is linked here, and we will send the slide deck. So you'll be able to access all of our training videos, any previously made webinars, and all of our webinars get added there. So if you miss any ones in the future, you'll be able to find everything there through that link. One thing to mention as well is that as soon as this webinar ends, we will be sending, you'll get a little, like a little link that you need to click through. And if you wouldn't mind, we'd really appreciate your feedback. So it'll just be a couple of quick questions just to see if you found this helpful or any recommendations. So really helps us moving forward just with our webinars. So that would be amazing if you wouldn't mind doing that. And yeah, if you have any questions that you feel, you didn't ask today or you think of them later, my email address is just on here and you can absolutely feel free to reach out. Or as I showed you, if you want to use the chat box in the platform, you can also do that. So yeah, thank you so much, guys. And that's it from us today. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. See you again soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.